wokeness. Now, I don't like to abuse the word too often because it's far too unspecific and overused, and really just means thing I don't like, often, like a counterpart to problematic. But it isn't impossible to discern what people are getting at. No, it doesn't just mean when there are black people or when there are women. People talk so much about defining wokeness, but to me it's really simple. It just means left-wing ideology. When people talk about a woke character or TV show or game or film, they mean it seems like it was made with socially left-wing ideological considerations. More specifically, identity politics, feminism, white fragility, post-colonialism, less so anti-capitalism beyond the most shallow appearances.
New Vegas for 2010 was extremely woke. Woke wasn't even a term yet, and this was 4 years before Gamergate. So compared to Last of Us Part 2, which was 10 years later, Last of Us Part 2 is now the extremely woke that everything else is going to be measured against. Fallout New Vegas was that at the time, even if I didn't know anything about identity politics or any of that shit. I knew nothing about that shit. Gamergate was what opened my eyes to that. That's why I feel bad about talking about New Vegas, because New Vegas is nothing compared to the shit we see now. But again, the Overton window conversation. Anything that's like slightly left already just makes me mad anyway, because I'm just tired of the shit. It makes me less mad than any game released in the past 3 or 4 years. It's one of my favorite games. I love New Vegas. I could talk a lot about the elements I like about it, but there's a lot of shit I don't like. That's what the New Vegas video would be. If I talked about New Vegas, it would be a Told Me Schizo rant. How is New Vegas woke though? May I list the ways, the number of ways. The women fighting on the front lines of the NCR, which is absolutely retarded by any metric. That's more woke than our modern military. You see a lot of women getting their heads blown off in Ukraine. No, you're not going to see that ever, period. But in the post-apocalypse, where we totally don't have a population shortage, guys, you know, it doesn't matter if it's 200 years. We're talking about like maybe 1,000 vault dwellers. So we have like a few thousand people somehow turn to this massive nation in 200 years. That's not like a normal population growth, considering how long it takes for children to grow up. Especially the Legion are rapists, slavers, and have no problem doing both those things to women, obviously, and, you know, brutally murdering them. Let's send all our females who, you know, make the future of the human race on the front lines to fight in the post-apocalypse. Fucking, I don't give a shit. Like, you know what? You can say Chris Avalone's a great writer, but he's also a delusional lefty. The game is ahead of its time in the worst ways possible. I mean, I love it to death. The quest design is some of the best in any video game. I love the progression system. I love so many other things. You know, it's just, the NCR is fucking stupid. There's so many like women in positions of power across the game, not just NCR. It's everywhere. If you ever play the game again, just pay attention. You won't stop noticing it. It's so stupid. It's the post-apocalypse. The NCR sending women on the front lines in a post-apocalypse is so stupid on so many levels, and it's a deliberate choice by the developers. It makes no sense. It doesn't matter if it's 200 years after the apocalypse. You need women to create more human beings. Plus, men do not want to see women. Don't want to see women be brutally killed in war, especially by the Legion, who are rapists and slavers and have no qualms about brutally murdering women. Not to mention the women are in positions of power in the NCR military, so it's actually more woke than our modern day military. The NCR is. It's such a fucking, it's so bad writing, and at no point does the game make it apparent that is part of the reason why the NCR is collapsing, because they just say corruption. It's not saying that women can't do things, certain things, but it doesn't make sense fundamentally. People seem to forget that women do something incredibly important, which is, you know, create babies. Any one man can inseminate 1,000 women, so men are inherently less valuable in that type of situation. So throwing women in a post-apocalypse to die, even if they have mandatory service in the NCR, mandatory service countries in our real world don't send women to the front lines. So it's just, look, I don't want more realism, but I hate propaganda, so I'm conflicted. It's still one of my favorite games of all time, but The game purposely, it doesn't show any form of femininity. There's no femininity in the game. There's basically no difference between men or women. Tomboys are the best synth. Well, that's what I'm saying. The problem is like individually, none of these things stick out. It makes perfect sense that women would have basic survival skills in an apocalypse. There's nothing wrong with female characters doing things. The problem starts when there's no difference between men and women. If game has men and women, there's no mechanical difference between them. Is the measuring stick for wokeness, and 90% of games have been woke since the 90s. No, because what you're thinking of is the player character, no difference between men and women. It seems like Lefty dishonesty tactics, Key Lancer. I'm gonna be honest, because if that's what you want to boil down this conversation to, I didn't see any, but it's hard to tell. Don't think you were listening. It's what I'm talking about. I don't care if a female character has the same stats as a male character, but I am gonna judge you if you play as female characters in games. I am, because my radar is way too sensitive for these things. Shit. For an RPG, unless you're making a based RPG, but like, let's say if Kingdom Come Deliverance gets a sequel and it lets you play as a woman, I would not be shocked if the female character had penalties of some kind, because that would kind of fit what they're going for with that game. For Fallout, I don't expect there to be any character penalties, but I also don't expect in the universe them to pretend that they're the same, because that is propaganda. I've never had a problem playing as a female protagonist in a game, but if it's an RPG, I'm never going to play as a female character, no matter how many times I play it. Not even just an RPG. Any character where I choose between male and female, I would choose male every time. Would you add more gameplay differences RE1 with Jill and Chris? No, I think what they did was fine. Obviously, Chris was not as good, though. When you go to the fort, you know, the Legion place, so you can enter the Legion arena, which has captured slaves. You can fight slaves and you can fight captured soldiers. You kill a couple slaves, and it's machetes. You fight with machetes to the death. And remember all this, it's important. So you defeat 2 slaves, then you defeat a captured NCR soldier, and then the champion of the arena is a female NCR ranger who is undefeated and beats people to death with her fists.
I have a dangerous one for you. An NCR ranger by the name of Stella. We got lucky since we rarely capture rangers alive. Even though she's a woman, she's killed every man who's faced her in the arena. Even one of the elite Kenturians. With her bare hands. Watch out for her. She's one of the deadliest fighters I've ever seen.
She killed 3 veterans with her bare hands. Very cringe. Yes, and the reason bare hands stands out is because they are fights to the death with machetes. Now let's see people pretend that that's not woke, yeah? So again, I mean, you know, New Vegas is not woke. What are you, crazy? Why would you think that's woke? I don't know, maybe you don't remember the game. Because as someone who played the game yet again, there's plenty of things. Also, the NCR had a female president for 52 years. They elect, and there's elections in the NCR. The Caesar literally says this. This is a line of dialogue in the game where Caesar says,
"As a young man, I was taught to venerate President Tandy of Shady Sands, the founding mother of the new California Republic. Did you know her presidency lasted 52 years? And that her father, Aradesh, was the Republic's first president? Does that sound like a democracy to you? Or a hereditary dictatorship? Because the council didn't dare oppose her. She was too popular. She had the people's love. So things ran smoothly, more or less. And as soon as she was gone, as soon as there really could be democracy, what happened then? Ever since losing its queen, the NCR has been weaker, more diffuse. Democracy has been its weakness, not its strength. Greed runs rampant. The government is corrupt, accepting bribes from Brahmin barons and landowners to the detriment of citizens. The NCR is a loose conglomerate of individuals looking out for themselves. It's lost virtue. No one cares about the collective, the greater good. It's not built to last. I'm just hastening the inevitable."
A realistic depiction of the state of democracy, but it's a post-apocalypse. That's my point. And it's not only that, but you have to remember Fallout is based on the 50s vision of the future that then got nuked. So you're telling me, despite having 50s style clothes and sensibilities, that they became as progressive as we did? It's just jarring. It's jarring when you actually stop to think about it. Having women in the military just doesn't make sense. Like, we're doing it now because of subversion and corruption and them. Sometimes you have to wonder what's actually intentional and what's not. Because the NCR is supposed to represent the corruption, the old world's Western civilization. The bureaucracy and corruption is so vague. The reasoning we're given for why the NCR is failing is it's just too vague for me. The NCR had too much expansion, but that also it's funny because both the NCR and the Legion actually represent Rome in different ways. The NCR is spread too thin. Might be the in-game explanation for why there's so many female soldiers. There's a lot of suspensive disbelief asks that the game has from you. And I guarantee you, if I ever made the video, some of the top comments are going to make some snarky comment about how, like, oh man, death claws and super mutants are super realistic. I mean, that's not the point. That's the entry-level suspensive disbelief to get into the universe. I'm just saying, based on the political philosophy of the in-game universe, a lot of things I have a problem with. There's explanations for why ghouls exist. There's explanations for why super mutants exist. There's explanations for why death claws exist. There's no explanation that men and women are biologically the same, except women can also make babies in the universe. It's just not consistent. There's so many lore channels, so many Fallout lore channels. I've listened to hours of like stupid shit just in the background, and nobody ever asks this question. Nobody. Not a single person. Despite being in a post-apocalypse, and yes, I realize Fallout's not a realistic universe. That's not the argument I'm trying to make. It's more the argument that the Chris Avallone and likely whatever other creators from Black Owl Studios that were there at Obsidian were lefties. It is like the liberal, idealized sci-fi apocalypse situation where it's just like, it's almost anti-Conan, where Conan is more like primal wasteland male power fantasy type of thing. Josh Sawyer wrote a lot of it, and he looks like he owns a coffee shop / fixed gear bicycle shop. Yeah, exactly. Josh Sawyer and Chris Avallone are definitely lefties. It doesn't mean that they're lunatics. It just means that there's certain parts of that ideology that are incompatible with biological reality. We'll say that. I could talk about Honest Hearts. There's an interesting little controversy around Honest Hearts. For those who don't remember, the entire crux of the conflict is there is a tribe called the Whitelegs who want to join Caesar's Legion, and to prove themselves, they need to kill the Sorrows tribe in Zion. And so, the two characters representing like the philosophy around this are Joshua Graham, who, you know, is the former legate, basically a general of Caesar's army, and Daniel, who is a hippie, peace-loving retard who is the incorrect choice, and you'd have to be a moron to think that his is valid in any way. And again, just sort of reveals some of the developers' personal ideology a little bit, that they thought that peace made any sense in that situation. The fact that they give you a choice, you could argue, you know, that's not woke, so whatever, that's fine. The actual controversy is Daniel is supposed to be Asian, and apparently someone fucked this up. One of the developers did before release. And you might be wondering, well, why does it matter if he's Asian? Well, yeah, exactly. And the problem is the good old great white savior, the whole white savior complex. I'm sure you've heard white savior complex.
As a minor point, Daniel was specifically supposed to be, and was in data for most of development, Asian. I don't know when, how, or why he was switched to Caucasian, but that's how he shipped. It's frustrating. Because those changes slot Joshua and Daniel as white guys among mostly brown folk, when one, they weren't supposed to be white guys, and two, the tribes were specifically called out as ethnically and culturally mixed without any real-world analogs.
I can bring up the video. Triangle City is the YouTube channel. The video was Honest Hearts Cut Content. And he brought up an interview where he explained they felt bad that game journalists, again, in 2011, were already complaining about the white savior trope. So again, this shit's been around longer than some of us might think.
Honest Hearts has been heavily criticized for its depiction of Native Americans. Josh Sawyer responded to these complaints stating, "I understand why people see it that way, but how the DLC shipped was not how it was planned. The tribes in Zion are descendants of a mix of North American native people, as well as other American citizens and European of various non-native ethnicities, tourists/campers. This survives in the language of the Dead Horses, for example, who use a large number of German-derived words. In the first design docs for Honest Hearts, every tribe was supposed to have members from all of F3/FNV ethnic groups. However, there was a complicating factor: body art. The various tattoos and body paints we needed to texture the bodies multiplied the number of required textures. They couldn't simply be layered on as they can in Fallout 4, but they were entirely new body textures that dramatically increased the amount of texture memory being used. For that reason, each tribe ended up only having one body texture per sex. This compressed their ethnicities into homogenized blends, with Dead Horses being a darker tan, Sorrow's a light tan, and the white legs, under the body paint, fairly pale.
And the other half of the controversy is that due to limitations of the Gamebryo engine at the time, they could only have each tribe of Zion, the Dead Horses being the third one, so Dead Horses, Sorrows, and White Legs, each one could only be one in-game race. For some reason, they thought it made sense for tribes, a tribal society, to be multiracial, which again, we could get into arguments about this shit. It is a fantasy, so really, like, logic doesn't matter. But it's far more realistic that without any of the modern poison of society, that people want to be around people that look like them. They've done studies on this, that all races except white have an in-group bias, right? And anyone who's been outside and talked to people, had experiences, you know, knows that everyone's a little bit racist, basically. The difference is, in modern society, white people are racist against themselves. That's what the study basically found. The controversy, right, is that since Daniel was supposed to be Asian, he's instead white, and Joshua Graham is white, that means his two white guys, Mormons, are saving the stupid brown tribals, right? Because they were tan, at least from being outside. I don't know what race they're actually supposed to be. Doesn't matter. The point is, it's like the white people saved the Native Americans. And this is back in 2011. 2011, this was a problem. So again, for everyone thinking that wokeness didn't exist before 2014, it existed forever, basically. Not forever, literally. Weimar Germany is probably the true origin. But if we want to talk in more recent history, really the origin was the end of Occupy Wall Street, if you look into it. That's where the progressive stack came from. So the people were like, what do you mean New Vegas is woke? Bro, you have to dig beneath the surface. If you just look at surface level elements like female supremacy, which, see, the problem is people's sensitivity sliders, so to speak, for wokeness are way too low. You need to turn that shit up. Because if the only thing that makes you cringe is like, bunch of people chopping their dicks off and wearing dresses and having full beards and shit, that being in media is the only thing that triggers you or something, that doesn't mean your definition is correct. That's just your personal problem, okay? There's the two gay companions, which admittedly are pretty well written for gay companions, but the problem is Veronica, it's a whole side story with Dead Money, with Christine being a major character across the DLCs, meets Ulysses, is hunting Elijah, is this badass secret agent for the Brotherhood of Steel, and is a lesbian. So there's that. And Veronica herself, I don't even like her character, period. I think she's insufferable. Veronica's voice actress also stated she's afraid of men because of Gamebryo. Felicia Day is, I don't like her in general, period. And Veronica just felt like Felicia Day being herself, kind of.
So I think it's the kind of struggle that you see when you're trying to change people's viewpoints. And hopefully there's enough people to band together to say, yes, we can be inclusive rather than exclusive. Because if you look at the numbers, it's vastly the negative is vastly outbalanced by the positive, I believe.
Her skin has a certain supple quality to it, doesn't it? She's kept it well. How mouth-watering. Very well. If you're able to convince young Mr. Gunderson to return to his father, replace him in the freezer with your friend, and we'll have a deal.
I could fucking make a video only about Ulysses, talking about how Ulysses is a shitty self-insert character for Chris Avallone, which is funny because Ulysses is black. It's basically just like waxing philosophic about like allegiances and political leanings and things, when ultimately Ulysses is just a guy who his entire tribe got wiped of their identity and died and all that shit. Then another tribe tried to copy his shit without knowing the history. It was cultural appropriation. He got mad about cultural appropriation. They didn't have a term for it in 2010. But Ulysses got mad that the tribe from Honest Hearts, the evil one, culturally appropriated dreadlocks. That's like a part of his character. It's gay as hell, dude. I'm just saying. Like, when you analyze these things from like a modern lens, again, I love the game.
What in the goddamn?
Benny was wasted, though. Built up as a big bad. Yeah, Benny was... Well, Benny, though, is a good example of the quest design in Fallout New Vegas, where most players are probably going to walk up and shoot him in the face. Well, at least that's what I did. Probably 4 times I played the game, I've refused to give up my weapons and just kill everybody inside. Because, I mean, why not? It doesn't really matter if you're vilified by the tops. But you don't have to do that. You can walk in, you can talk to Benny, agree to meet him upstairs or whatever. You can expose Benny. I've never even done that, where you talk to the front desk dude, and you can expose him on his crimes. There's a bunch of different ways you can handle the quest. Now, if he escapes, Caesar catches him, but I bet they had a plan for if you free Benny, because you can free him when he's captured by the Legion. There's a lot of elements in New Vegas like that where it's like,
where you going?
Yeah, this is clearly like
second.
cut content or something. Away to true to Caesar. Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. No, I actually don't like the Legion. I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but I don't like the Legion. I mean, I think the Legion is a good meme pick. Like, if you're like being an edgy boy, I think the Legion is great, but we're talking like unironically. Nah, the Legion, I don't like the Legion that much. I don't know. I love Fallout New Vegas, though. I mean, fuck. I mean, you see this shirt? The NCR shirt? Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the NCR either, though. That being said, you know, I wanted to wear a video game shirt for the stream. Part of the reason I like Fallout New Vegas is the fact that you can join Caesar's Legion. That saves the game from being blatant political propaganda. But also, the problem with Caesar's Legion is that they're just too obviously the bad guys. It's not even that I necessarily think they would be the wrong choice. It's just for how advanced the post-apocalyptic world is after 200 years. They seem way too primitive socially. The NCR is the opposite, so I don't know. I guess that's kind of the point. Opinionated Junkie, thanks $2. Taking over New Vegas is better than Caesar. See, the problem with that is that just makes your character into a blatant Mary Sue. That isn't really like that's like immersion. Listen, when I first played the game, I was 15 years old, and yeah, at 15, I'm like, whatever, I'll just take over Vegas to rule it myself. Well, you know what? At 27, I think that's kind of retarded. Why? Your character is a mailman who gets shot in the head twice, and then he's the leader, the guy who knows basically nothing about New Vegas. Basically, trusting Mr. House is the equivalent of trusting some billionaire to save the world. And, I don't know, that's a big part of how we got into this mess in the first place. You could argue that we've never been a truly libertarian society. I don't know, the same reason why I don't think communism would work, I don't think libertarianism would work either. So, I don't think Mr. House is quite the right choice, but it'd probably be better than NCR.
I don't like ideology in my games. Now let me go back to the video game that has themes of imperialism in it.
Laws and labor structures tight, memories of faded might.
Okay, so again, this is another one where, first of all, New Vegas is woke, according to me. So this doesn't counter my argument. I actually do think New Vegas is woke, because half the NCR military is female. That's pretty fucking progressive, I'd say. And retarded. for that matter. And it's not just that. I mean, there's other things. I mean, they specifically go out of their way to show how badass one of the female Rangers is in the Legion camp. It's funny how when you know the game very well, you can name certain things. So now he's doing the left-wing popular thing of everything is political. Okay. So because New Vegas has politics in it, that's shoving ideologies down your throat. Okay. Things existing is not forcing it down your throat.
I used Imperial Rome as the model for my Legion precisely because it was so foreign, so alien. I'd seen what had become of the NCR's attempts to emulate the culture of pre-war America, the infighting, the corruption. Rome was a highly militarized autocracy that effectively integrated the foreign cultures it conquered. It dedicated its citizens to something higher than themselves, to the idea of Rome itself. In Rome, I found a template for a society equal to the challenges of the post-apocalyptic world, a society that could and would survive, a society that could prevent mankind from fracturing and destroying itself in this new world by establishing a new Pax Romana.
Well, that's the opposite of woke, though. That's based. He's not even getting his terminology right. So woke is left-wing ideology. Now, based has lost almost all of its meaning. But to me, based almost is the opposite of woke, really. That's the way I've thought about it. So, yes, I would say Caesar's Legion is based. New Vegas might be the rare game that is simultaneously woke and based, in a way. Because at least it lets you choose. You can join Caesar's Legion. The game would indisputably be woke if you couldn't join Caesar's Legion. Wasn't the argument forced down your throat? You can kill Caesar's Legion. If they made you join Caesar's Legion, that would be the woke he's trying to argue. But most people are not going to do that. The majority of people do Yes Man or NCR. People pick Mr. House before Legion as well.
It means a nationalist, imperialist, totalitarian, homogenous culture that obliterates the identity of every group it conquers. Long-term stability at all cost. The individual has no value beyond his utility to the state, whether as an instrument of war or production. No, I'll destroy it because it's inevitable that it be destroyed. It's Hegelian dialectics, not personal animosity. How do I put this basically enough? It's a philosophical theory, the kind you might encounter if you took time to read some books. The fundamental premise is to envision history as a sequence of dialectical conflicts. Each dialectic begins with a proposition, a thesis, which inherently contains or creates its opposite, an antithesis. Thesis and antithesis. The conflict is inevitable, but the resolution of the conflict yields something new, a synthesis, eliminating the flaws in each, leaving behind common elements and ideas. The bombs wiped the slate clean. Human civilization descended to a level of ignorance that effectively set our cultural progress back to zero. The NCR has all the problems of the ancient Roman Republic: extreme bureaucracy, corruption, extensive senatorial infighting. Just as with the ancient Republic, it is natural that a military force should conquer and transform the NCR into a military dictatorship. Thesis and antithesis. The Colorado River is my Rubicon. The NCR Council will be eradicated, but the new synthesis will change the Legion as well, from a basically nomadic army to a standing military force that protects its citizens and the power of its dictator.
Now, I understand Actaman is stretching it to say that, well, technically, you can join Caesar's Legion. That is an option. That's not like modern identity politics, which, again, I know we're playing like, this is like an apples and oranges situation. Like, where I know what he's trying to say, and I agree, basically, the spirit of what he's saying, but I don't agree that those are the same, right? Fascism is eternal. Pronouns is a mental sickness of society that hopefully won't exist in 300 years. You can't kill like ideas. Fascism is like a meme, whereas pronouns is just something, a small tool that's manipulating society at the moment. Communism is the counter. The fascism, communism is probably also eternal. I'm sure communism will come back up over and over again through society.